Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
If you were listening to this right now, there is a very good chance you have a browser tab open somewhere in the background.
Oh, almost certainly.
Right. Just staring at your storefront's dashboard, trying to figure out, why yesterday's sales suddenly dipped.
Yeah, it's a universal experience at this point.
It really is. Running an online business today feels less like, managing a shop and more like being shoved into the cockpit of a commercial airliner mid-flight. You log in, and there are just flashing lights and dials and alerts and graphs everywhere.
And everyone in the industry is just screaming at you about data.
Exactly. But ironically, with all those screens right in front of you, you've probably never felt more blind to what is actually driving your business forward.
Well, I mean, it is the ultimate paradox of modern commerce, right?
That's how so.
We have theoretically perfect tracking now. We can measure every single click, every scroll, every hover. Yet as operators, we are entirely overwhelmed by all that noise.
Yeah, it's just too much.
The sheer volume of information actually paralyzes your decision-making rather than enabling it.
And getting you out of that paralysis is our mission today. We are looking at this highly detailed B2B guide from May 2026. It's titled Shopify Analytics: What's Built In, What's Missing, and How to Read It.
It's an incredibly thorough piece of source material.
It really is. So whether you are running a rapidly scaling storefront yourself, or maybe you're prepping to advise an e-commerce client, or you just really love decoding the hidden mechanics of how digital businesses actually make money.
Which is a fun puzzle in itself.
Totally. We're going to extract the exact levers that make an online store profitable today.
Because knowing where to look is half the battle. If you don't know the boundaries of your own dashboard, you just end up optimizing the wrong metrics.
Or worse, right? Paying thousands of dollars for third-party software tools that you do not even need yet. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the reality of Shopify Analytics, according to this guide, is that most store operators only use a tiny fraction of the tools available to them right out of the box.
Right.
They are missing out on massive leverage simply because they just don't understand the underlying structure of the system they log into every single day.
Well, the built-in reporting actually covers about 80% of your core operational questions.
And when you say operational, you mean?
I mean, the what happened questions, like, what inventory sold? What were the basic margins? Where did yesterday's traffic come from?
Like the day-to-day stuff.
Exactly. The platform does that exceptionally well, but it really only scratches the surface of the strategic questions. That's the remaining 20%.
The more complex stuff.
Yeah, the predictive questions. Things like deep lifetime value modeling across different customer cohorts or complex multi-touch attribution across 5 different ad platforms.
Okay, but before we get distracted by that 20% and start, talking about expensive third-party apps, we really need to establish a baseline.
Definitely.
What exactly does the platform give you on day one? The guide points out that your report depth actually scales depending on what tier you pay for.
Right, it's not all the same.
Yeah. So if you're on the basic or standard Shopify plan, you are reading pre-built reporting sets. But if you upgrade to Advanced or Plus, you unlock a custom report builder and this feature called ShopifyQL.
Which is basically a way to query your data directly. It's very powerful.
Right, but regardless of the tier.
Well, yeah, the plan tier dictates your access, but here is the crucial takeaway for anyone listening, regardless of what tier they are on.
Okay.
The dashboard will happily show you 40 different metrics.
40. That's so many.
40. But you should only be using 4 of them to drive your weekly business decisions.
Just 4 out of 40. I mean, that is a massive amount of noise to filter out.
It is. But focusing on the core 4 is what separates an actual operator from a spectator.
So what are the 4?
They are conversion rate, average order value or AOV, sessions by source, and gross profit per order.
Okay, let's hover on conversion rate for a second because the guide gives us some really hard benchmarks to grade ourselves against here.
Yeah, these numbers are a wake-up call for a lot of people.
The global e-commerce baseline is sitting around 1.6%, but a healthy ceiling for a well-merchandised store is between 3 and 5%.
Right.
That gap is staggering. I mean, if your store is sitting at 1.4%, you have a massive structural leak to fix before you spend another dime on Facebook or TikTok ads.
You would essentially be pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom.
Exactly.
And that leads directly to the 4th metric. Gross profit per order. This is a number that is entirely useless unless you do the manual, unglamorous work up front.
The stuff nobody wants to do.
Right. You have to physically input the cost per item, your cost of goods sold, or COGS on every single product variant in your store. If you leave that field blank, your profit reports just show $0.
Meaning, any return on ad spend calculations you make downstream are essentially just guesses, like you're flying blind.
You are. If you don't have your COGS dialed in, you might be looking at a massive spike in top-line revenue from a new paid campaign and celebrating.
Thinking you're rich, yeah.
But you are entirely unaware that the customer acquisition cost on the ad platform combined with the product cost just wiped out your entire margin. You aren't growing a business, you are just buying revenue at a loss.
Ouch. And that brings up a concept from the guide that frames this perfectly. It's called the one number per lever discipline.
I love this concept.
It's so smart. The rule is that you have to match the metric you are watching on the screen to the physical lever you are actually pulling in the real world.
Right.
Think of it like flying that commercial plane we talked about earlier. If you pull the thrust lever, which in our business case is your AOV merchandising strategy, like testing new product bundles or raising the free shipping threshold.
Yeah.
If you pull that lever, but you're obsessively watching the altitude dial, which is your conversion rate, you're going to crash. The metric has to match the lever.
What's fascinating here is the underlying math of those levers when you pull them correctly.
Okay, lay it on us.
Let's look at AOV versus traffic. Let's say you successfully execute that bundling strategy and get a 10% lift in your average order value.
Nice.
On a healthy store, that 10% AOV lift will almost always beat a 10% lift in raw traffic when it comes to your actual contribution margin.
Because you aren't paying a tax to acquire that extra revenue, right?
Exactly.
The customer's already standing in the digital checkout line. If you bring in 10% more traffic, you had to pay Meta or Google to get those people in the door, which just eats your margin.
Precisely.
The AOV lift is just pure margin-rich revenue from the audience you already paid for.
That distinction is the bedrock of profitable scaling. You have to understand that.
So, assuming we have our 4 core dials isolated, we're watching conversion rate, AOV, sessions by source, and gross profit per order weekly.
Yep.
What happens when one of those dials suddenly drops? Like when the conversion rate tanks on a Tuesday? My instinct is to just panic.
Sure, that's natural.
How do we diagnose the problem without getting sucked back into the other 36 shiny metrics?
You have to look for the specific leak in the funnel. The platform's built-in funnel diagnostic is incredibly sharp if you actually know how to read it.
Okay, how do we read it?
Instead of looking at the overall conversion rate, you isolate 2 specific steps. First, the percentage of people who added to cart and then reached checkout.
Right.
And second, the percentage who reached checkout and actually completed the purchase.
The guide offers clear floors for this, which is super helpful. A healthy store should see 50 to 70% of people who add a product to their cart make it to the checkout page.
Yes.
And then 70 to 85% of those who reach the checkout should actually cross the finish line and buy.
If you are falling below those floors, you do not have a generic marketing problem or bad ad creative.
It's not Facebook's fault.
No, it's not. You have a highly specific user experience or trust problem. If they drop off before checkout, maybe your cart drawer is broken on mobile.
Oh, that happens all the time.
If they drop off at checkout, maybe your shipping rates are shocking them, or a payment gateway is glitching out.
I hear that, but, when I'm trying to spot these leaks in real time, my absolute first instinct is to open up Shopify's live view.
Oh, no.
You know the screen, the real-time map of the world, with the pulsing dots showing visitors browsing the site right this very second.
The dopamine map?
Yes, it feels incredibly powerful. But the guide dismisses live view as mostly morale and theater. And I kind of have to push back on this. Wait, isn't having up-to-the-second data the whole promise of the digital age? It's the pulse of the business.
Whoa.
Watching live view feels like watching a stock ticker. Surely that immediate feedback loop is valuable for an operator.
It's the illusion of a pulse.
The illusion.
I completely understand the psychological appeal. Watching those dots gives you a dopamine hit that makes you feel like you're actively managing the business. But you have to apply what the guide calls the live view test.
Okay, what is the test?
You look at that pulsing dot on the map in real time, and you ask yourself a very simple question. If this number is 30% higher or lower in the next hour, what will I actually do differently?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
If the answer is nothing, then I'm not managing. I'm just watching a movie.
You are watching theater. Now, to be fair, there are highly specific, high-stakes moments where live view is critical.
Like Black Friday.
Exactly. Black Friday and Cyber Monday, hour-by-hour monitoring to make sure the servers are holding up. Or QAing a checkout change you just pushed to production to ensure transactions are actually clearing.
That makes sense.
Or maybe validating that a campaign URL is working in the first hour of a major product launch.
But outside of those stress test moments, it's just noise distracting you from the bigger picture.
True operators rely on daily or weekly trend lines, not minute-by-minute dots. The guide recommends a 20-minute weekly ritual to replace the live view habit.
A 20-minute ritual.
Yes. You open 4 specific report clusters: sales, acquisition, marketing, and inventory. And you force yourself to write down one single observation for each.
Physically write it down.
Yes, just the physical discipline of writing down the weekly trend forces your brain to process the trajectory, which vastly outperforms staring at a real-time third-party dashboard all day.
Writing it down moves it from passive observation to active analysis.
Exactly.
But, that assumes the numbers you are writing down are actually the undisputed truth. And that leads us to the massive elephant in the room. What happens when you perform your weekly ritual? You write down Shopify's trend line, and then you log into Facebook or TikTok, and the two numbers completely contradict each other.
The classic dilemma.
The guide calls this the single most asked question of 2026. Why doesn't Meta match Shopify?
Welcome to the infamous attribution wars.
It's a bloodbath out there.
Yeah, it really is. And the most critical thing to understand is that the 2 to 3x gap between Shopify's reporting and Meta's reporting is structural. It is not a software bug.
They aren't just broken.
No, they are fundamentally measuring entirely different definitions of what a sale actually is.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because they are both fiercely taking credit for the exact same transaction.
Yes.
It's like two friends taking credit for a romance. Meta says, I get the credit. I introduced them at a crowded party 3 days ago. They scrolled past my ad. They locked eyes with a product. It was magic.
Right.
Meanwhile, Shopify says, no, I get the credit. I literally drove them to the altar, handed them the ring, and processed the vows. Who is actually right here?
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. So Shopify uses a model called last non-direct click.
Okay.
It essentially only cares about the very last measurable step that brought the customer to the site right before they pulled out their credit card, the altar. Meta and TikTok, however, operate on view-through conversions. If a user simply scrolls past your video ad, doesn't even click it, but then remembers your brand and buys from your store 3 days later, Meta claims 100% of that sale.
Wow. Even without a click.
Even without a click. Add in their default 7-day post-click window, and mathematically, of course, they are going to claim 2 to 3 times more conversions than Shopify is willing to credit them with.
Not to mention all the friction introduced by privacy changes over the last few years.
Oh, absolutely.
The guide notes iOS 14.5 app tracking transparency, the rise of ad blockers, and even Shop Pay logins.
Yeah, Shop Pay is a big one.
Right, like Shop Pay is great for conversion, but it often inflates Shopify's direct traffic bucket because it obscures where the user originally came from. All of these things just sever the data connection.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to stop trying to force the numbers to match.
Just give up on that dream.
Yes. It is a reconciliation rabbit hole that you will never, ever win. Instead, the guide suggests adopting the attribution triangulation rule.
Pick one source of truth per specific decision and stick to it.
Exactly that. You use Shopify as your absolute source of truth for revenue, AOV, and gross profit. That's the cold, hard cash actually hitting your bank account.
Right.
But you use the ad platforms Meta, Google, TikTok exclusively for in-channel optimization. You use their numbers to figure out which creative or audience is performing best relative to the other ads on that specific platform, not to calculate your total business revenue.
And the guide provides a major technical fix here to make sure you aren't making that structural discrepancy even worse through your own code.
This is so important.
You have to use the official sales channel app, specifically the WebPixels API, to connect your analytics to downstream platforms like Google Analytics 4.
Yeah.
Historically, a lot of merchants would just, copy their raw Google or Meta tracking tags and paste them right into their theme.liquid code.
For those unfamiliar, theme.liquid is the raw foundational code of your website's design. Pasting tracking pixels directly into that theme is a massive operational mistake in 2026.
Why is it so damaging?
Two reasons. First, it completely bypasses the platform's built-in customer privacy framework. It breaks consent rules.
Oh, that's not bad.
It is. It means you are tracking users who opted out, which will get you in serious legal trouble, especially under EU and UK regulations.
Hey.
Second, and honestly worse for your daily data integrity, raw code often double counts events.
How does that happen?
When you paste raw code, it fires every time a page loads. So if a customer buys a shirt and then refreshes their thank you page to check the shipping date, that raw code fires again. Facebook counts it as 2 purchases.
Oh, wow. So how does the WebPixels API fix that?
The API runs the tracking in a secure, isolated sandbox. It catches that page refresh and essentially says, wait, we already recorded this specific order number, and it deduplicates the data before sending it to Meta or Google. It cleans the signal.
Okay, so if we establish our core metrics, we run our weekly ritual, and we use the official API to clean our signal, Shopify handles 80% of our reporting perfectly.
Right.
But what about that final 20%, that strategic layer we mentioned at the start? When do you actually reach the breaking point where you need to pull out the credit card and pay for a third-party analytics tool? And how much can you just, hack together yourself?
The biggest catalyst that drives operators to a paid tool is the need to understand lifetime value, or LTV, and customer cohorts.
Because the basic dashboard doesn't do that well.
No. When you are scaling, you desperately need to know what a newly acquired customer is going to be worth to your business over the next 12 months, not just on their first purchase.
But the guide gives us a formula to calculate LTV without needing a fancy dashboard at all.
It does.
It argues you can solve 80% of your LTV decisions with 3 numbers the basic dashboard already gives you. You take your average order value, multiply it by the average orders per customer, and multiply that by your gross margin percentage.
Let's walk through their math slowly to see why this is so effective. Say your store's AOV is $80.
Okay, 80.
Your average customer orders 1.6 times a year, and your gross profit margin is 55%.
All right, so $80 times 1.6 orders gives you $128 in total revenue. Multiply that by your 55% margin. That equals $70.40. That's your 12-month LTV.
And that single $70.40 number is arguably the most powerful metric in your business.
Why is that?
Because it sets your absolute ceiling for customer acquisition cost. If you spend $75 to acquire a customer on Meta, and their 12-month value to you is only $70.40, you are literally buying revenue at a loss for the entire first year.
I love how elegant that is.
Yeah.
But, it raises a real question. If I can just do that LTV math on a napkin in 30 seconds, why would I ever pay $300 a month for a complex tool like Polar Analytics or $129 for Triple Whale? Is it just a luxury?
It becomes a necessity based on the frequency and complexity of the questions you need to ask.
Okay.
You can rely on the napkin math if you are only checking your overall LTV once a month to set a general budget. But imagine you are scaling rapidly. You are spending tens of thousands of dollars on ads every single week.
Right. Big budget.
Distributed across Google Search, TikTok influencers, Meta retargeting, doing manual cohort analysis across all those different channels to figure out which specific ad drove the most valuable long-term customers. Doing that on a napkin becomes a full-time, error-prone job.
Ah, so it's about the volume of the noise. The math doesn't change, but the operational drag of calculating it manually across 10 different campaigns becomes unbearable.
Precisely the point of friction. The guide breaks down exactly when the operational drag justifies the upgrade.
What are the tiers?
So Lifetimely is a tool that costs about $49 a month, and it's fantastic for stores doing $30,000 to $200,000 a month that are hyper-focused on customer retention.
Okay, that's affordable.
Then there's Triple Whale, which sits around $129. That is built for stores over $100,000 a month that are extremely paid media heavy and need to track ad spend meticulously.
Right.
And Polar Analytics, at $300, provides warehouse-grade data architecture for stores doing over $250,000 a month across multiple complex sales channels.
And if you don't want to pay a monthly fee for a tool, but you happen to be on the Advanced or Plus plan, you can leverage ShopifyQL.
Yes, that's a great built-in alternative.
The guide gives a great example of writing a custom query to slice sales by product type over a 90-day window. It completely replaces a stack of fragile manual spreadsheets without needing to install a third-party app.
But before anyone listening decides to invest in any of those third-party upgrades or spend hours writing custom data queries, the guide presents a piece of math that should probably change how every operator views their daily priorities.
Ooh, the conversion uplift calculator.
Exact.
That uplift calculator completely shifts the perspective on where we spend our time. It grounds the conversation in sheer business impact.
It demonstrates mathematically that the conversion rate lever is the most underpriced, overlooked lever in all of e-commerce.
Let's break it down.
Let's look at the scenario. If your store has a fixed traffic base of 100,000 monthly sessions and your AOV is $80,
Okay.
achieving a mere half a percentage point lift in your conversion rate, say, going from a 1.5% conversion rate to just 2.0%, yields an extra $480,000 a year in revenue.
Almost $500,000. And the crucial detail there is that you did it by getting 0.5% more of the people already standing on your site to click the buy button.
Exactly.
You didn't acquire a single new customer, no new ad spend, no new TikTok campaigns.
You achieved it just by fixing your page load speeds, making your shipping thresholds painfully clear, or fixing a tiny glitch in your mobile checkout flow.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom all the way out to our original mission of cutting through the overwhelming noise of the dashboard, reclaiming your time and your sanity comes down to a few absolute non-negotiables.
Very true.
You must set your cost per item on every variant, or you are flying blind on your actual profit. You must install GA4 in your ad pixels properly via the Web Pixels API, not by pasting raw code into your theme.
Please don't paste raw code.
Right. You need to stop obsessing over the real-time dopamine theater of live view. And to end the endless attribution wars, you have to pick one source of truth per decision.
And I'll leave you with this final paradigm shift, building on the math of that conversion calculator.
Let's hear it.
If a tiny 0.5% lift in conversion adds nearly $500,000 a year on a fixed traffic base, which often vastly outperforms the revenue of spinning up an entirely new paid marketing channel, it forces a difficult question.
Yeah.
Are we collectively spending far too much time, energy, and money trying to buy the attention of new visitors?
Are we just desperately trying to shove more and more unengaged passengers onto the plane?
Instead of simply building a better, smoother, more profitable experience for the ones who are already waiting right at the door.
It really makes you evaluate your own dashboard. And more importantly, it makes you wonder which lever you should actually be pulling tomorrow morning. Thanks for diving deep with us.